microphones are being dealt with. Excellent, thank you. Do we have any apologies, please?
Yeah, apologies, Chair, from Councillor Davenport Ray.
Thank you. Moving on to the minutes of the last meeting in November. Do we have any comments on the minutes, please? Councillor Corley.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to find it. When I was reading it earlier on, there was there was something that we hadn't done yet and we were hoping we would do it, and I'm trying to remember myself. Yeah, Councillor Davenport Ray inquired at the effect of the change of the national insurance would have on the council and how the risks associated might be mitigated. And obviously at that stage we weren't really clear. I'd really wanted to just check if we got any clarity from central government on that. Do we know?
Through you, Chair, thank you. Yes, you'll see in the budget papers for tomorrow evening, we received within our grant about a third of the amount that the national increase in national insurance contribution cost us. Yes, that's all set out in the budget papers. That has been pressed back through Treasurers' Societies back to the government, and they've undertaken to have a look at it as they relook at funding again for next year. But that's the absolute position.
I just have one point from the minutes in that Councillor Cadaway was unable to attend in November. Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item 2, do we have any members' interests to report? No? Thank you. Agenda item 3, the Workforce Information Report, Quarter 3, 2024-2025. If I can invite Leanne to present, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to take you through the Workforce Information Report for Quarter 3, which runs from the 1st of October 2024 to the 31st of December 2024. In terms of the headlines, at the end of the quarter, the workforce had a headcount of 668 and a full-time equivalent total of 608. This is an increase from the end of the previous quarter, where the headcount was 650 with a full-time equivalent of 592. In terms of the pay bill, the forecasted spend on all pay costs for employees is still continuing to be an estimated budget overspend, but this is a reduction from last quarter. 33 employees left the council during Quarter 3. This is a slight decrease from the previous quarter, which was 35 employees. The percentage turnover for the 12 months was 17.5%, which was slightly higher than previous quarter at 16%. Although this is still slightly higher than the UK average, it's still below the LGA benchmark, and we're continuing to engage with leavers to understand the reasons for why they're leaving, to see whether we can do anything to retain them. During this period, we've also had 3 retirements with a combined service of 59 years.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Please pass on our thanks to those individuals, and obviously good luck for the future retirement. Thank you.
In our recruitment news for this quarter, there has been a decrease in the recruitment activity compared to the previous quarter, but this is usual at this time of year, as we don't tend to advertise too many roles over the Christmas period. But there has still been an increase in roles advertised compared to the same period last year, and we're still continuing to receive an increased number of applicants for each role. During this period, we made 80 job offers, with 16 of those being internal offers, which demonstrates our continued commitment to growing our own talent. During this quarter, we also completed an executive search to fill the position of the Chief Digital Information Officer. This search was a huge success, and due to it being completed in-house, there was a significant cost saving compared to using an external agency. So we're therefore using the skills that we learned during this process to continue to use this going forward for any other executive searches that we need to run. As reported last quarter, we're continuing to closely monitor our new LinkedIn advertisements. Over the last 9 months, this has achieved 510,000 impressions, 23,900 job views and 2,200 total apply clicks, which has resulted in 10 hires. In addition, our followers have grown by 37%. This is very encouraging, and we will continue to use all the tools at our disposal to grow our LinkedIn network. For staff engagement, the delivery of the workforce strategy is continuing at pace, and Kieran will provide more details of this in her update. New workforce strategy roadshows are being planned in this quarter to give staff the opportunity to feedback on what has been put in place so far and to continue to give them an opportunity to raise any more ideas that they have that we can feed into the workforce strategy. We're continuing with our apprenticeship programme to develop and support internal staff. We currently have 31 members of staff undertaking their apprenticeships, with 11 members of staff completing and passing their apprenticeships during this time. We're also rolling out our leadership and management training programme to all line managers within HDC to ensure that they have the required skills to carry out the management role and to support their staff members. Summary of sickness. Annual average sickness has decreased slightly from 9 days per FTE to 8.5 days per FTE. Long-term sickness has decreased from last quarter from 18 employees being off on long-term sick to 17, and this represents a percentage reduction from 59% to 44%. This is a result of long-term sickness being proactively managed by line managers and some of our more complex sickness cases concluding and the individuals returning to work. And we'll be continuing with this level of management support to continue this trend. Short-term sickness has increased again from 566 working days lost to 663 working days lost. But as you can see from the chart, the top reason for this absence was colds, coughs and flu. And this is reflective of the sickness trends outside of the organisation and an increase in COVID, RSV, flu and norovirus. As usual, we've been offering flu vaccinations to all staff who are not eligible for one via the NHS, and there was a good take-up rate amongst staff this year. As can be seen from our case reporting statistics, sickness casework continues to remain the highest and has increased from the previous quarter. This shows the active management around sickness in an effort to support our employees to remain in work. HR caseload has continued to decrease this quarter from 82 cases to 72. This is our lowest since this time last year, and the reduction of long-term sickness cases, along with timely support from line managers, is likely to have had an impact on this decrease. So that's the end of the report, if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Leanne. Very positive report, encouraging, particularly around the sickness absence, and great to see that in a winter quarter, and appreciate the efforts of the HR team in managing that. I appreciate, your workload is significant, and great news on the apprentices as well, in their achievements on the back of a very successful celebrating and showcasing event recently held. So well done, thank you. So I invite any more comments to Leanne.
Sorry, I wasn't sure. Yes, thank you. I agree, and a good report here, and good to see that long-term sickness has decreased, although that still equates to over 500 working days lost. Can you maybe explain a bit about, because we hear about how we manage long-term sickness, maybe give us a flavour of what that entails and how we go about managing that long-term sickness, please?
It obviously depends on the reasons for the absence. One of the key factors in supporting members of staff back to work when they have been off on long-term sick is maintaining contact early and regularly with them so that they still feel part of the organisation, they still feel supported. We're making sure we're referring them to occupational health as early as possible. So again, if there's anything that we put in place from an occupational health perspective, we do that. We have our absence management policy, which we were finding wasn't necessarily being followed by all managers. So we're making, HR are now supporting all managers to make sure that they're following the policy and they're having the right conversations with staff at the right time. Quite often it's only part of that conversation that you find out that there's actually something that is underlying that you may not already know about as a manager, and therefore you don't know how to support that individual. And it's just having that conversation. So that's instigating all the processes and policies at an earlier stage is what we've been driving through for certainly the last 3 months, or 3 months prior to this. And yeah, we're hopeful that's what's having a significant impact on it.
you, Leanne. Councillor Corley?
That sounds great. And just to be clear, so this is the managers are involved in that process rather than it all being HR. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, as with all processes within the organisation, it's management-led. HR are there to advise and support and help, and certain parts of the process we will come in to support with the line manager. And again, ERG and Unison are available to support the individuals as well. And we work closely with ERG and Unison as well to help making sure that, again, if there's anything that they're aware of that we can be doing to help support the individual, we're making sure that's in line as well.
Councillor Jordan?
Yes, it was a really, really very good report. Just on the sickness, I think I may have asked this question before. Occupational health, have you got an in-house one or is it external?
It's an external company that we use, and we review regularly the provision they provide, so that we can make sure that they're kind of fulfilling the role that we need them to undertake.
Are they easily accessed, or is there a waiting list? Or
No, so we've actually updated it, the providers that we used last year, and we've gone from an average of around 10 days waiting for the employee to wait for a call to an average of 2 days, and we can escalate that quicker if we do need to.
okay, thank you. And I particularly like the recruiting challenge. I thought that was very, very positive. I really enjoyed reading that, and I thought the whole report was very good. Thank you very much.
Do we have any further comments, please? Councillor Corley?
Sorry, it's me again. It's great to see that the number of HR cases had reduced in the quarter, but 16 cases resulted in what's called formal procedures. Now, without disclosing anything confidential, can you maybe explain to us what that potentially looks like in terms of formal procedures?
Sorry, formal procedures, did you say? That'll be either a disciplinary process that's gone into a formal disciplinary investigation. In terms of absence, we have a 3-stage absence process. So the first stage is an informal process, stage 2 and stage 3 are formal processes. And if people are raising formal grievances, that would fall under the formal process as well. So it's an accumulation of any of those that it could be.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. One of the other things I think is helpful to hear as well around some of the performance management aspects that are teased out in that report is also the training that we're providing to managers. So as part of the workforce strategy, you will have heard last time that, in fact, consistently through the focus groups, that there was a real hunger for enhanced internal training to support managers in some of these areas. And actually that programme has now launched, and those first cohorts are, the training sessions are in the diaries, and for want of a better expression, a 3-line whip to attend. But that is to ensure that HR are supporting managers, but we've got that wraparound support to support managers who may be their first time at having some of these, working through some of these challenges, thinking about early intervention, coming back to sickness, and sometimes those difficult conversations can be a barrier. So we're really looking through the HR leadership in how we are able to support managers, because you'll start to see a different aspect. The more we can support managers to intervene early before anything is an issue, the less casework you will see formally going to HR, which means HR can focus on preventative rather than firefighting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? In that case, shall we move on to agenda item 4, the pay policy statement 2025-2026. To Leanne again, please. Thank you.
So I won't go through this in too much detail, but the pay policy statement falls under the Localism Act of 2011. There is a requirement for each local authority to produce and publish an annual pay policy statement. The purpose of the pay policy statement is to ensure transparency and accountability with regards to our approach to setting pay. So the full details are within the report, but the The policy sets out the Council's current policies and standard practices. An Employment Committee are asked to review and agree the pay policy statement, which can then be taken to full Council before publication on our website by the 31st of March 2025.
Thank you, Leanne. Are there any comments? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Thank you. The Gender Pay Gap Report, March 2024, and it's back to Leanne. Thank you.
So again, HDC is required annually to produce and publish data relating to comparing average pay by gender across the organisation. This quarter's report contains this data and shows that HDC are performing positively at the time of the report with regards to our gender pay gap. Our mean gender pay gap at that point was 1.6% in favour of women. This is slightly lower than last year's figure at 1.75, but it demonstrates that we're still performing well against the UK average gender pay gap, which is in favour of men by 7%, and local government average being 6.7%. So that I think, especially comparing it to last year's one and demonstrating that it's not actually changed that much, it demonstrates our ability to recruit and retain an equal workforce for a sustained period of time. And I think it also demonstrates our dedication to supporting everyone to be in the workplace, regardless of their personal circumstances, their sex, and the strength of our flexible working policy to support everyone to be in the working.
So again, a positive report. Thank you. Good to read, and welcome any comments. Keen.
Just one area, if you could just expand on the difference in the bonuses. Obviously, that's one of the bonuses percentage paid by gender.
So this will refer to honorariums that are paid to staff for going above and beyond their duties. So as you can see, women or females within the workforce are receiving 49.9% of the bonuses, of the honorariums. Sorry. So that will relate to the actual amount that is paid to them, depending on what level of above and beyond they've done above and beyond their role.
Thank you, Leanne. Any further questions or comments to Leanne? Councillor Corley.
Sorry, it wouldn't be. Just on that then. So I understand the mean bonus pay gap. If I understand this rightly, it means that women on average are being paid £300 more than men in bonus. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. So each honorarium is decided individually depending on the level of additional responsibility that they've carried out. So it will just, without having the specific information to hand, it will just be they've been paid the higher level for the higher level of additional responsibilities.
So just a question, and it's a question I'll ask later on as well in some of the other areas for policy. How do we ensure equity then? Because, I'm your manager, I might quite like you, so I give you a bonus, but I don't like him much, so he gets much less. I mean, how do we make sure that's not happening?
So honorariums are completed and signed off by the head of service, and we HR, although we don't monitor it as such, as in it is the head of service decision, we do have oversight of the honorariums that are coming through. So if there's anything that does look out of kilter or unfair, or if a certain area of the organisation was giving, more honorariums to male members of staff or female members of staff, or if an individual was continuously getting one for no real apparent reason, that we would push back. We get a quarterly report on that, so we push back on any that don't look quite right. And the forms that come in have a justification on there from the head of service as to why the individual's getting it.
I'm not getting anyone here, but so I'm just thinking about equity here, and so I totally understand all of that. So are there sort of criteria set down? So I, as a manager, know I've got certain criteria I can tick, or is it purely at my discretion, I guess? And again, I'm not pointing a finger at anyone. I just really want to understand how this is done.
There is guidance around it on what kind of accepted reasons for honorariums are, so loose guidance to give for managers to have, but it is at manager's discretion.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, Julianne, or comments? No? Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6, the workforce strategy update. I invite Kieran to present. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take you through an update of some of the activity that's been happening with the workforce strategy. I'll just start off on the first area.
Kieran, it might just be worth waiting because everyone will be distracted.
Thank you. So yes, I'm just going to take you through some of the activity that's been happening with the workforce strategy and the different initiatives we've been involved in. So that I don't say it for everyone, I mean, these are all actions that have come out of the action plan that's off the back of the workforce strategy. So it's all the work that contributes towards that. So firstly, I was just going to tell you about the buddy scheme. So this is something that we've got in place in HDC, but we needed to look at the action plan in terms of revisiting it because it's not being utilised very well. So we have looked at that and made some very minor changes which seem to have been quite effective. So we have a director's welcome for new starters that they attend. And rather than just leaving the buddy scheme as part of the onboarding process, we've now actually made some little cards that are on the tables for those staff. So they can just fill them out whilst they're there and hand them in to us. And that gives them the opportunity to let us know if they want someone who's another new starter that they just can have as a contact to have a tea or a coffee with, or if they want someone else experienced from the organisation. And as part of that, we've actually started to develop a pool of experienced buddies as well. And what's been really nice is quite a lot of different staff and managers have come forward for that as well. They've really wanted to be involved. We've also had some videos come through. We've been talking to local government pension scheme and asking what they can do to help our staff in terms of financial wellbeing and support. So they've given us some videos that are on YouTube, but we've now got them on our workforce strategy page. We've advertised them. We've got them on our payroll page. And so we've been letting staff know that that support is there for them as well. At the last meeting, we spoke about the health kiosk that was at Eastfield House and Pathfinder House for a week. We've now had the results of that as well. So I was just going to give you some of the highlights to that. Some of our main risk areas were in relation to high blood pressure. The number one risk was about being overweight or obese for our staff. 34 people were triggered to see a GP as a result of those checks. 9% had severe blood pressure in Eastfield House and were advised urgently to see a GP, and 31 people were asked to be referred for a health check. Off the back of that, the 31 people that were asked to be referred for a health check, we held a half-day session with a nurse at Eastfield House and a whole day at Pathfinder House for these appointments. And in addition, during some of those free slots, staff had the opportunity to go in and get their blood pressure checked as well. We had some really positive feedback off the back of that because we had staff telling us that actually they were the types of things that they sometimes put off, but with it being so convenient in the workplace, it just allowed them to do that quite easily. So we will be hoping to get the kiosks back in the future as well. In the last few weeks, we've just held our second set of roadshows. So if I could just move to the next slide, thank you. So those roadshows were held at the Countryside Services, Pathfinder House, Eastfield House, One Leisure Huntingdon, One Leisure St Ives and St Neots. We had lots of new material showing staff what has been happening with the workforce strategy, including the health promotion material following the health kiosk results, and lots of two-way discussion with feedback and new ideas. So again, we were taking on board what staff had said to us that they didn't want to be presented at, but they wanted to talk to us and engage in that discussion. So we had a really good turnout at these sessions. We had Michelle went to all of them, and we had Suzanne and John Taylor as well, attended some of those too, with their sausage rolls and lemon curd flapjacks going down really well, I have to mention. But what was really nice is we captured a lot of staff at these as well, and we deliberately last time and this time did that. So for Countryside, we arranged it in line with their team meeting. with Eastfield House, we arranged it so we could get Active Lifestyles there for their team meeting at the same time. And it just, made it really good for us to be able to see a lot of staff in one go, and really good discussion. So we're actually in the process now of getting our next ones in as well. We've also been working on the employee handbook. And we spoke about that last time, but the point we're at now is getting that onto the iTrent system so that we can get a record of everyone who's had a copy of it, and also working with managers of non-wired staff to ensure that they've got a paper copy as well, and linking that in with our recruitment processes to ensure that all starters get a copy so that we don't miss anyone along the way. At the roadshows, we also launched a new support service for staff through the residents advice team. So last time I spoke to you, we were just kind of starting that, but we've been able to really push that out to staff now. So this team will be able to give they can give staff the same support that they give to residents, and that's in relation to financial well-being, help with benefits, filling out forms, signposting, access to community fridges, so saving on food wastage, and they can give private appointments outside of work hours. And it's confidential. We've only got 2 people in that team who've got access to that mailbox for our staff. We've also got the leadership development programme that Michelle touched on earlier. So an email has gone to all managers with the details of the programme, and the invites have gone out. So that programme will run over the next 12 months, and that will cover various different areas such as employee relations. So that employee relations is the HR module, which will cover disciplinary, grievance, bullying and harassment, and sickness management. And during that, there'll be various different things happening, like cases that the managers can work on. They'll go through the legal implications and just give staff a chance to, managers a chance to learn from each other, really, and share some of that. Other parts of those modules are My Conversation, which will look into the one-to-one process, personal development plans, succession planning, and team building. We've also got recruitment as part of that, and that will cover recruitment selection on onboarding. We've got another module on leading teams to deliver excellent customer service, one on continuous improvement, and one on leadership stars, which will cover some of those softer management skills. And that first session is on 12th of March, so coming up in a couple of weeks' time. And we've also had our Christmas decorating competition in December, and this went down really well as well. So doing something like this with staff, we weren't sure what the engagement was going to be like, but it was really positive. Staff really got involved. It brought teams together, and the feedback was that it was just what they needed, and felt that they'd been given some permission to have some fun and to take part. And it was really nice to see different teams walking around, going and talking to other staff in the building. So it was really positive. Yes. And then just moving on to the next slide, we also had, we've had some different development opportunities for staff as well. So the first one we've got coming up is the Tri-Sector Challenge, and the HDC are going to be sending a team forward for that. So that is where you send a team forward who take roles as part of a senior leadership team, and they compete against other public sector organisations as various tasks are thrown at them during the day. So it's a really good development opportunity to get involved in, and those staff that are picked for that and put forward, you know, it's quite a good recognition opportunity and a growth opportunity for them. Just on that similar theme, we've got a district council network opportunity as well for staff on leadership development and mentoring from a chief executive or a senior officer from another council. And we're pleased to say one of our staff members has also been selected for that. The next one is in relation to, with the workforce strategy, it is evolving, and we are listening to the feedback that we get from staff through things like the roadshows and you know, through any comments that we get. So one of the ones I just wanted to touch on was in our last all-staff briefing in December, staff had commented on wanting further information on our iCare nominations, not just to see the name and what the value was, but to see what that nomination was about. So we've actually put that in place as well, and to help encourage other staff as well to recognise their peers. We also had an action around the iCare video to make a new video. So our last video was quite out of date now in terms of some of the staff had left that aren't here. And so I wanted to show you the new video. So it's quite different from the previous one. It's more animation based. So hopefully it will last the test of time. Hope you enjoyed that. That was actually created by one of our HR colleagues, and the comms team worked quite hard on creating that video. And we took that round to the road shows as well so that it could be played to staff whilst we were there. This next slide is in relation to one of the core priorities that we'd picked as part of the strategy, and this is in relation to having clear objectives at all levels. This area was This was due to feedback that we'd had during the engagement sessions when the workforce strategy was created, that some staff had said, actually, you know, they're not quite sure about the touch base with staff, the objectives, some of those kind of things. So we found some areas were great at doing that, but it wasn't always consistently applied. So what we're looking at is creating a new one-to-one form that can be used across the organisation. And that picture is one of the workshops we just had a couple of weeks ago, and that's got a number of different managers and staff from different services that are able to input in so that that form can be created in line with what their service needs. So we're currently amalgamating the feedback we've had from that, and that form also went out to the roadshows at different sites as well so that it could be tested in different services. And once we've got all that feedback, we will then be presenting that to SLT so that it can be in place for 1st of April. These are some upcoming dates. Apologies, the first one has passed. It was because the dates had moved to the meeting, but we did celebrate Random Acts of Kindness Day as well, which was lovely to get staff involved in that. And One Leisure actually did that really well. They actually involved customers in that. We've got International Women's Day event coming up with a panel in the Civic Suite and hybrid on 5th of March. So we're looking forward to that. We've got a cervical screening mobile unit coming to Pathfinder House on the 6th of March. So we've got staff booking into that, and we've done that off the back of Cervical Cancer Screening Prevention Week. We've got Comic Relief coming up on, it's actually going to be on the 19th of March because that will suit us in terms of the most staff being in the offices, but we're going to be having a bake-off. So the theme this year is the big 40th birthday for Comic Relief. What I haven't got on there is we've got Easter coming up as well, so we'll be doing something around that as well. And that's all part of the action plan in relation to engagement of our staff. In terms of the next 4 priorities that had been agreed, and we agreed these in December, one of them was electric vehicles, and we picked this area because when we spoke to staff about the action plan, this was one that they were really, really interested in. So rather than just from our workforce strategy team, go ahead and start looking into the demos and things, we've actually got a group of staff who have expressed their interest to get involved in that process. So they're on those in those meetings with us. We're also looking at discounts from One Leisure for staff, and we're pleased to say that it's been agreed that staff can have some discounts on the pay and play activities, which include areas such as swimming, bowling, roller skating and parties, and some discounts on pitch hire, escape pain management for staff. So staff were really pleased to see that when we went round to the road shows. We're also exploring an action around all staff having access to ICT, and work's already started on that as well. So we're just analysing some of the data on that, and then we'll present a report to SLT. And the last one on there is about forming a social committee, and I'm pleased to say that has already formed as well, and we've got 8 staff members on that, and they're looking at ideas around a summer picnic and a quiz. This last slide just shows some of the progress since the last meeting. And if you've got any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Kieran, for your report and your visual and sharing the iCare video. That's a huge amount of positives there. Thank you. So, do we have any comments or questions for Leanne? Kieran, apologies.
Thank you. Fantastic report. Only just a question, because when you've got new starters, they can find sort of senior management team quite out. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but I was going to ask: do the new starters have a time with Michelle? Because I've had that at my previous employment, and it was really quite useful.
So as part of that leadership development program, the one that I didn't cover on there was for new starters coming into the organisation. So we have quite a robust plan of the different things that they do. Part of that in terms of meeting the senior leadership team is the director's welcome. So they would be invited to that. They'd have presentations and they'd have introductions from various members of senior leadership team and have an opportunity to have a chat.
May I just come in on that as well?
Of course, Michelle.
So it is a really good point, because it's really important that you feel connected to your senior leadership team and they're not in an ivory tower and you just don't know who they are, and these people are, you know, making decisions or something around what's happening and you've got no connection with them. So we do take that as the directors group, we take that very seriously. But what we also do is, it's not just about us, it's about all of those new starters. So it's an opportunity for everyone to introduce themselves and say why they chose to come and work at Huntingdonshire. And actually that is such a fantastic icebreaker, because it gets the networking across the teams. So, you know, your first couple of months, you actually get to meet people outside of your team. And we actively encourage people to, you know, grab a cup of tea and talk to other people on their tables. And then actually I have a drop-in session every week. There's an hour that's, and every Friday, my email that goes, so I do a Friday email that reminds people when that is. So I get a variety of people drop in just to say hello and chat. And so that works as well. And that is truly about being accessible to all of the workforce. And I get people come from all of the sites. And likewise, that's why, as you heard from Kieran, the CLT corporate leadership team were going on all of the road shows as well, so people can see us and chat to us, and we're not the scary people that, you know, just in ivory towers.
That is really good to hear. I think that's fantastic, because it does help people, and I think when they feel they belong somewhere, they're more likely to stay as well, which is fantastic. Great job.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Corley. Thank you.
Thank you, Kieran. Fantastic. A lot of work done there. Really exciting. Glad to see all that engagement work. It's exhausting, I'm sure. So well done for looking so fresh as you do. I just wanted, one point I wanted to pick up on the electric vehicles. I was intrigued. So your next for priorities. When you say electric vehicles, is that about salary sacrifice scheme, or what it is? Could we maybe have a little more detail on that, if we can?
So I missed the last part of the question.
So it's just a wee bit more detail on what that might look on, as it's too early to tell.
It is a bit too early to tell at the moment, because we're just gathering information, but I will be able to hopefully by the next committee give you a bit more on that.
Councillor Jordan, thank you.
Yes, I think I'm going to echo what everybody says. What a really brilliant piece of work. And after watching that, who wouldn't want to come and work here? You know, it's so proactive. I like the fact that it's listening. I particularly like I know we said this last time, the health kiosk, because I know, even though I worked in the NHS, you know, I put off going to doctor's appointments. I think it's something you do in the public sector and things. So I think that is hugely, hugely important, because it just shows you're caring for your staff in a different way. But I thought it was a brilliant piece of work. Sorry I missed the apprenticeship. As you know, I really wanted to attend that because I'm passionate about that. So, but it's a brilliant piece of work. And I love the fact that even though you've got some serious stuff in it, you've got some fun stuff. And I think the balance is good for you. So, well done.
Councillor Keane, thank you.
Just one thing, I thought we already did discounts on One Measure for staff.
We do have membership discounts at the moment for using the gym facilities, but this is in addition to that. So this is more about parties, bowling, roller skating, swimming, and that was actually as a result of direct feedback we were hearing from the last road shows when we went round to the sites. Staff had asked about that, so we explored it and we're pleased that we were able to offer that.
Are there any further comments or questions? Michelle, thank you.
May I just conclude there? I think what, if I may say, Councillor Jordan, the point around recruitment and retention, it goes to the heart of, you know, the challenges. The market is hard in terms of recruitment, and therefore it's important that we create an environment for our workforce that they wish to stay. But equally, our workforce are our greatest advocates, which is why when we're seeking to recruit, you know, word of mouth, actually we say, as an organisation, we say what we do. You said we did. We evidence that the continuation of the development of workforce strategy in terms of not just implementing the action plan that came out of the focus group sessions, but keeping it as a live document, not a static in time, this is what we do, builds trust and confidence in the workforce. And when we're in that position of local government reorganisation and retaining and recruiting becomes even more challenging, having a commitment to delivering and not just words, it's not just that, it's the doing of that, gives us an edge in the market for that wider recruitment and retention. And we will, you know, it will be challenging at times during the next 3 years. So that is a really important key for us, because we're able to support talent internally to progress, keep the talent we have, and then when we do, inevitably the market's hot, people will leave, we're able to recruit top talent back in as well. And we're seeing that through our recruitment exercises in terms of the quality of candidates that come through. And our brand in terms of recruitment is a strong brand in that market. And I think, Councillor Jordan, your point around the video, we'll use that for recruitment purposes as well. It's another strong message in terms of this is a good place to come and work.
Thank you. All very positive. Are there any further comments or questions to Keir? Oh, Councillor Keane.
Just one question on that point. What's our Glassdoor rating?
I'd have to check.
I mean, to that thing about staff being the best advocates, I'd definitely be interested to see how we could make that one of our, shall we say, key performance indicators, that we increase Glassdoor.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Okay, moving on to representatives of employees. I'm pleased to have David Pope. Oh, sorry. Oh, I have. I'm so sorry. I jumped item 7. Apologies. Okay. Agenda item 7, HR policy update, flexible working scheme, and that is back to Leanne. Thank you.
Thank you. This is only a very small tweak. It's a current policy that's already live, but we've made some suggested amendment to it to expand our flexi time offering for staff who sit on the SM and SM plus bandings. So this will mean that everyone under director level are all treated the same in terms of when they work additional hours, they're able to take the time back following on from that. So that's just a proposal for that to be included into the policy.
Thank you, Leanne. Any questions or comments to Leanne? Councillor Corley.
Don't say it like that. Leanne, look, this is a great piece of work, and the policy it ticks all the right boxes. There were just a few things when I was reading it through, and it's a shame that we maybe didn't pick this up previously when it was reviewed back in 24. But there were a few things I just wanted to sort of check out with you. The whole issue of flexible working, I think, absolutely the right thing to do. But it's back to a question I asked earlier on around equity. How do we, where's the process? It says that, requests will be agreed in the interest of the service as well as the employee. But how do we make sure that is in fact happening? And what sort of criteria are used to make sure that it's fair when we decide yes you can or no you can't have that flexible working arrangement? That's my first question. If you don't mind, if you don't mind, Cheryl, sort of ask them each in turn if that's easiest.
So we have an application process for people that want to work change their hours so they're working under flexible working agreements. There's a form for them to fill out and a process for the line manager to follow with them. Under law, there's only certain reasons why an organisation can turn down a flexible working request. So if somebody did put in a request, we would work with them to ensure we could accommodate it even where possible, and if not, it's very strict in terms of where we can turn it down, and we have to be able to demonstrate that we can't accommodate it or accommodate a version of what it is that they've requested. So if an employee requests flexible working, the manager is able to approve it. That's all done on a local level between the employee and the line manager. If it's not something that we're likely to be able to approve, or if it's something that we need to have further conversations with HR, get involved to ensure that the policy's followed and that the right questions are being asked and that the right outcome has come to. So there is that consistency from the HR support.
Okay, I suppose my question is, would there not be some indication of that in the policy, maybe to just help people understand what is definitely out of bounds and what's kind of in bounds? And in terms of those criteria for managers, if they're turning to this policy, do they have to turn to you then for some advice, or would it make sense to include some of that in the policy, was my point?
Yeah, I think what we could do is with a lot of our policies, we have the policy and then we have a procedural document that runs alongside it. So I think it might be obviously taking that on board. It's probably more appropriate for us to have it as a procedure document, kind of a manager's guide and an employee's guide. So we could certainly look at doing that.
So if we could reference that in the policy, that would be ideal, I guess. Yeah.
Councillor Corley.
If you're happy, Chair, I have a few other questions. Sorry. The reason I'm so intrigued about this is something I've been working on in my workplace now. I'm being held accountant and a lot of these sort of things. I just thought it'd be interesting when I looked at yours. We've already covered the decision-making criteria and how is there any guidance given to managers on how they go about assessing? Again, it's back to this business needs versus the individual needs. I'm very concerned that we don't actually then measure, and I'm saying sometimes organisations don't then measure, they say, well, no, for the needs of the business, you've got to be here. But then there's no ongoing proof that that's actually been the right decision, or vice versa. If we've allowed an individual to have flexible working, and then all of a sudden we find, there's a pile of work that never seems to get done. Is there any sort of process whereby there's a further review and we can sort of somehow measure the effectiveness of that decision? And if there isn't, then is that something we ought to be thinking about within this policy or within your guidance document?
Yeah, I mean, we encourage all managers to review flexible working decisions every 12 months, just to make sure that they are working, and if not, then to look at what we can do to change that. But again, that's probably something we could look at putting into the procedure document.
One, if you don't mind, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Corley.
So again, the policy includes working from home as a discretionary option, but I think it lacks clarity on hybrid working models. And I'm all for it. This is not a criticism. I think this is great that we now have people that can work hybrid, we can work at home, we can be totally flexible. We don't really define, I don't think, in the policy, the hybrid working models. We don't really define, I don't think, the expectation of those remote workers. you know, when should they be available, what communication, any cyber security, and also the guidance and hybrid working relations. I know in the business where I work, we have a lot of us working in hybrid, but the expectation is you spend 3 days a week in the office and only 2 days out of the office. Now, that suits our business. I just wonder if that's something we should be considering as part of this policy.
And may I come in on that one, Chair? So thank you, Councillor Cawley. As head of paid service, these sorts of issues do fall under for my sponsorship and responsibility. And actually, I have been working with internal audit, and we're currently having an audit of our hybrid working arrangements for precisely some of the reasons around consistency, how different teams are applying that, health and safety aspects. So it would be premature on that particular aspect because I'm fully expecting an internal audit report to be presented with some findings, which will then inform the policy and procedures in due course.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Councillor Cawley. And yes, welcome news if there is an audit underway. And we'll look forward to receiving the update. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Just on the working from home and things, is mental health looked at with any of the reports or surveys that you do? Because obviously people, although it is useful to work from home, I think it's getting that balance right, because you do need interactions with colleagues.
May I come in? Sorry, Leanne. That's something that actually I consistently raise, and we've raised it in terms of it's part of our leadership training that Kieran and Leanne have referred to earlier on. And practically, it's around the non-verbal. So if I see you on a Teams call, I'm not really seeing Councillor Lowe is okay today, because it's very one-dimensional. And when we look at sickness and we look at reasons for sickness, the whole of the hybrid working in terms of ensuring the mental health of our workforce is absolutely important to us, and it's got to be that balance between us safeguarding our workforce, and that is very much part of the hybrid working internal audit that's happening now in terms of what are our policies, how are they tested, how do we employ that consistency of approach, again back to Councillor Cawley's points. So that will absolutely be picked up, and that is something that certainly the HR team are very clear when they work with managers in terms of the earlier conversations around sickness. Are we making sure that we understand the non-verbal, which can be very early warnings before somebody actually is physically absent from work? So we're very much in that space.
And obviously with health and safety and workstation assessments and things, I know it's fantastic to have these online systems to use for forms to be filled in, but I think especially with the sickness as well, it might be worth looking at to see if it could be a causal link to that, if people aren't sitting at a proper workstation. You know, we all have it, we all do it. It's just thinking, you know, outside the box a little bit, just from my own experiences.
So you'll be super pleased to know that that's also covered off as part of the hybrid home working. So again, our health and safety manager is involved in that process to ensure that the policies that we have are being applied by managers, are being tested, and those of us that may be in a hybrid situation are making sure that we do the online training as well and the proper assessment. So all of that is being captured as part of that in terms of any lessons learned, both good things that we do, but also where we could seek to improve.
Thank you. Are there any further points or comments on item K? Now moving on to the representatives of employees. Apologies, David, welcome you. Anything you wish to raise?
Thank you, Chair. There's only a little really. There's some excellent news from the other reports you've received today. One of the key issues, obviously, is the local government reorganisation that is going on. That's obviously concerning to members of staff, but that has been mitigated really well with the very open communication with all staff, both through managers' meetings and lunch and learn meetings that the chief executive and her team have been delivering. So, but that is supported by the fact that there's a drive to show that, you know, the staff are valued, and we want people to see that this is the best place for them to be working. So the work that Kieran is doing on the workforce strategy sort of supports that. And it's good to see going around to the roadshows that those are being engaged with far more by the staff as time goes on. So, you know, it is really positive. You know, we know there are challenges ahead, but the communication is there with staff. So, and it's good to see that they are engaging.
Thank you, David. We appreciate the unsettling time for staff, but great that you've not acknowledged all the positives of workforce strategy and everything that's being done to retain our good people. Thank you. Any other points, questions to David? Otherwise, moving on to agenda item 9, exclusion of the press and public. Okay. Can I take a vote that we exclude the press and public? Please. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Carried.